What's up guys, Onmaths here, and today we're looking at scatter graphs. So, Edexcel to begin with. I think most of these questions are pretty much the same, so we should rattle through these without much effort. There's a few things in it just to note. So it says that we've got a scatter graph here, and the first question asks us for the coordinate of the outlier. Now, outlier means that it's a point that doesn't follow the trend. So whenever I see a scatter graph on a question paper, always draw the line of best fit. Like, you're never going to lose a mark for doing it, but often you will get a mark, even if the question doesn't seem like it's asking you to do it. Now that would be absolutely fine. This one here would be absolutely fine. So don't worry too much about your line of best fit. And the rule of thumb is that it should have equal numbers above and below the line. So all the ones I'm drawing now, I'm kind of drawing a few just to highlight the fact that all of those would get the mark. And basically what the exam give the markers is an overlay, and the overlay has 2 points here and 2 points here that the line of best fit has to be between if you are given a mark for a line of best fit. And you can see that they're very generous. So have a look at any coordinate that's nowhere near that line of best fit. Obviously this one here is nowhere near it, and just write the coordinates. So you always do the x value first, and if that's 9, that's 11, that's going to be 10. And then the y value, if that's 18, that's 20, that's going to be 19. So 10, 19. Next question says, for all the other points, write down the type of correlation. Now the word type means it's going to be either positive, negative, or no correlation. The line best fit's going up, going from left to right, it's going up. So we say that that is positive. Be careful when it says describe the correlation. What it means is as the number of hours of sunshine increases, the maximum temperature increases. That's what it would need as an answer. When it just says write down the type is either positive, negative, or no correlation. On the same day, another British town, maximum temperature of 16.4. Estimate the number of hours of sunshine. So it's given us a value here of 16.4 degrees C, and it's asked us to estimate the number of hours. So all we need to do is draw a line across from 16.4. So looking at the scale, that's 16, that's 17 there, and there's 5 little squares between them, so it's going to go up in 0.2s. So when it says 16.4, we want, and this is quite difficult for me to do, but I'm going to try my best. There we are. Draw a line across from 16.4. And then as soon as we hit the line of best fit, we draw a line down. Now looking at the scale at the bottom, that's going to be 12, and again it's going to go up in 0.2s. So I would say it's probably going to be 12.9 for mine. And I can imagine the mark scheme will give you anywhere between 12 and 13, because your line of best fit is going to be different to mine, almost certainly. So you'll get, like if I did a line of best fit further towards this side, I might, or maybe up like that, you can see that where it crosses my line across changes with my line of best fit. So always show your line of best fit, and always show the lines that you use to estimate with. So everything I've drawn on there, maybe apart from the 17 and the 12, but everything else you need to make sure you draw, because even if your line of best fit is wild, you'll still get the mark. Now the last question asks us to interpret the scatter graph, and it's saying the temperatures are higher on days when there is more sunshine. So days where there's more sunshine, which is on the right hand side of the scatter graph, it does show that the maximum temperature is higher. So to answer this question, I would say something like yes, yes, and something along the lines of most of the points for high temperature appear when the most hours of sunshine, or when there is the most hours of sunshine. I say most because we've got that outlier. So yes, most of points. Now you could talk about the positive correlation as well. That the scatter graph shows that there's a positive correlation. Therefore, just try and say that try and highlight this area here that shows like the where the maximum temperatures are is where the maximum number of hours of sunshine are for most points, and just make sure not to say all points because we've obviously got that outlier there. Right, next we move on to AQA's offering. This is actually from a practice paper. I couldn't find a decent question from their release papers. It's written by, I presume, the same people. So again, I see a scatter graph. So the first thing I do with a scatter graph is draw a line of best fit. Don't even really read what the question's saying. I just know that I'm going to have to draw a line of best fit, so I do it. Again, the tolerance is really wide. So if you're not 100%. For instance, some teachers say that the scatter graph should have the same number of points above and below it. Now, if you count them with mine, that's not at all true. I think there's 3 below it and 2, 4, 6 above it. But as long as the line goes with the data, that's the main thing. That's the important thing. Okay, so it says describe the correlation. Well, if you look at the points, they are all very close to the line of best fit. So first of all, it's going up, so it's going to be positive, just like the last one. But I would not say it's weak. Weak is when you've kind of got points like this, quite far away from the line of best fit. This is definitely a strong positive. Next one, gone too far. Use the line of best fit to estimate the number of tests needed to pass by a person who has 50 lessons. So 50 lessons. So I'm going to draw a line up from 50, which would be here, then draw a line across, and read the scale. Well, the scale, they're going up in 0.2s, and if we look again at it, now I would normally, for most of the scatter graphs, write 3.8. But I probably with this one would round it to the nearest whole number. I probably would round it to 4. Don't really know whether you would still get credit for a decimal there, because it says to estimate the number of tests needed, and you can only have like a whole number of tests. But for statisticians, sometimes you would write 3.8 on average, because you're clarifying that's an average. If you're talking to someone and saying, how many tests do you think I would need to pass? Then you say to them, 3.8, then they'd be like, really? What's that mean? So it depends on the context of the question. Right, last question. It says, I can use the trend to predict the number of driving tests needed to pass for any number of driving lessons. Comment on her statement. Now, it's hinting at quite a common trend in scatter graph questions. Essentially, it's saying this trend will always occur, like no matter where you are on the graph. And one of the obvious ones is your height of really young children. As you get older, your height grows, and it looks like a linear relationship. But then you realise that when you get to the age of 90, you become like 100-foot tall. Well, that clearly doesn't happen. So it's assuming that the trend continues. And just a little bit, because this is obviously a learning video. If you make predictions, I've got the wrong setting. If you make predictions from within here, it's called interpolation, and that's okay to do. That's kind of like, none of this is going to be perfect, but that is not going to be frowned upon. If you make predictions here or here, basically outside of where the data is, it's called extrapolation. And extrapolation assumes that the trend will continue, and the trend will almost certainly not continue forever. Like with this or with most things, there will be a point where the trend stops. For instance, if you look here, it's predicting that if you have 27 driving lessons, you can pass without even taking a test, which clearly is not a thing. So just you've got to say something like I don't know, the if an estimate is made outside the range of the data, it may be unreliable. So I've shown the examiner that I know what extrapolation is. I could have just said something like there's a danger when extrapolating outside the range of the data. I could have said something about the line of best fit not continuing. The trend might stop. It might not be a linear relationship anymore. And also what I said, that 27 hours of, or 27 driving lessons moves to 0 numbers of test pass. So there's quite a few things you can say there, but try and make sure you've got the words interpolation or interpolated and extrapolated or extrapolation in your arsenal, because those are really useful words just to guarantee you get the mark. Most of the mark schemes for this type of question will be looking for those words or an understanding of them. Last up is our OCR question. And the first question says to circle the outlier in the scatter diagram. Now, as I've always done, or I have done so far with all these, I always do a line of best fit through the data, something like that. And you can clearly see where the outlier is. The outlier is this one here, so I circle that because it's nowhere near the line of best fit. And this time we've got a negative correlation, which is interesting. Next one says the owner claims that he would expect about 320 visitors on a day with 2 millimeters of rainfall. So let's focus on that 2 millimeters of rainfall. So let's draw a line up and see whether he's correct looking at the scatter graph. Now we've shown that actually he'd expect about 240. So does the scatter diagram support his statement? So he said 320, but we've found it's about 240. So the line of best fit would estimate 240 visitors for 2 millimeters of rainfall. Now be careful, because you need to make sure you have a conclusion as well. So no. try and make sure you write the word yes or no to a question like this. So I've written the explanation, so that's definitely going to be worth a mark, but you need to have a conclusion on it. And the conclusion just for this one has to be no. Right, explain why the scatter diagram should not be used to estimate the number of visitors for 9mm. Okay, so 9mm is over here, and as we said before, and there's some common themes with these questions, our range of the data is here. Okay, that's our range of data. So whenever we make predictions within there, that's interpolation. But 9 is well outside the range of the data, and that's all we need to say. So 9mm is outside the range of data. And we could date. We could say something like therefore this extrapolation, so unreliable, or words to that effect. I would imagine for this question you don't need to do that. You could also highlight the fact that if the line of best fit continues, let's try and do that. So if the line of best fit continues, for 9 it's actually negative if you have a look. So it actually will be minus visitors, which you obviously can't get. So you could highlight that, and you'd still get the mark. Well, I hope this video today has been useful. And if you enjoyed it or found it useful, please click like. If you want to see more from us, we release every single weekday: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So every weekday. If you want to see more from us, click subscribe. Also, if you want to find more free resources from us, everything on our website is completely free, and the website is onmaths.com. I'm sure there's a card that will appear above the video now. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.